So this is a film that kind of slipped my radar for a while. Came out last year in 2019, and wasn't one that I always wanted to go rush out for, and that is Ready or Not. Definitely one that seemed interesting, but one that I could definitely wait on. And it seemed like one of those films that have been coming out a lot lately where they take a serious premise and turn it completely into a comedy and a parody and just throw a shit ton of gore into it, which is great. It's just when there's so many coming out at once, only a handful of them are good. It's like kind of like the found footage genre. You know, there's so many that come out, but only a handful are good, and that's how I kind of saw this film from the trailers and stuff like that. But did I hate it or love it? I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it to Death Do Us Part. It was fantastic. Samara Weaving is really good in it. The entire cast is phenomenal, especially with their quirkiness. Script writing and screenplay is amazing. That's what you need to do with these kind of films is you have to, as a filmmaker, be able to make them quirky enough so they're not boring, because then they just come out as the same plot. You get, horror comedy with blood, and although that may be fun, it can be repetitive if it's done wrong. But yeah, this was fantastic, and we can get right into it. So right from the credits, it's a film by Radio Silence, which I always find funny when directors alias themselves and give themselves a brand. But yeah, both directors are Matt Bettinelli Olfen and Tyler Gillette, and they're part of Radio Silence. You get violence right from the beginning, so you're immediately introduced to the family's killing spree, if you will. I'm sure everybody, the plot of the film is pretty basic and pretty known already. A woman is about to marry a man, and when she comes to meet the family, they have a tradition of playing a really deadly game of hide and seek in their huge ass mansion. So, again, simple premise, which you can do a lot with, and this film does a lot with it. So you're introduced to Grace, played by Samara Weaving, and she is getting ready to marry her husband, or soon-to-be husband, Alex. And I love how Alex gives her one last chance to leave because he knows everything that's going to come. And poor girl has no clue. So he's like, I'm going to give you one more chance to be out, just in case you want it. And she's like, no, I'm all the way in. And she's just so in love with him. It was funny the way it was going because she has no clue, and he wants to get her the hell out of here, but he doesn't really know how to say it. Kind of funny, right? You don't know how to say, you're about to enter one huge shitstorm. But the wedding is hilarious. Everybody is so cartoony in this film, and I love that. It really reminded me of dark Disney villains, like a live action film filled with evil Disney villains. They all looked so quirky and so over the top. Like these ladies with like Cruella de Vil hair staring at the bride like it was so funny. I just had a blast with it. And they really played off the characters really well, and even just the extras. They played it like this kind of a balance between, I didn't know if I was going to like it at the beginning because it's kind of a balance between very modern day behavior and very rich, esque of dressing up, and so fantasy like of a set piece of a situation. So it had both elements going on, and I didn't know if they were going to be able to balance them right. They balanced them perfectly. It was hilarious, especially with the screenplay, and the script writing was perfect. So then they get into this ritual where the tradition for the bride or groom in this family is to draw a card so they know what game to play. And there's a slew of games like backgammon and checkers and cards and whatnot. And Alex, her soon-to-be her fiance or husband now after the wedding, is like, yeah, it's our family tradition to play a game, and I know it sounds weird, but you know, and she's just goes along with it, and they're sitting around this table which is shaped like a pentagon, and the dad starts telling this story about his father and how he was so obsessed with board games and this huge family tradition, and that every new bride or new groom that comes into the family has to play a game, and how important that is. So she draws a card, and basically it's hide and seek, which is the worst game. I didn't know if they were gonna play where it doesn't matter which game you play, it still goes violent. But apparently, you know, the one hide and seek card is the one death card, basically. So you're playing Russian roulette with those cards, basically. I liked where they went with that. So of course she picks hide and seek, and she thinks it's ridiculous, but she goes along with it. And she goes out. They play this record, which I absolutely love the song that they play, the hide and seek song. So funny, that song, especially on a vinyl record on the old record player. It was great. A lot of attention to detail with that. But so they give her a 100-second countdown, which is the length of the song, and then they go after her with only old-fashioned guns. And weapons. They only use weapons from basically the 1800s to keep it traditional. And another thing with this family, this is not something that they often do, because what happens is you think this is a ritual that they do all the time, but basically the only time this card has been ever picked was this time, and one other time like 30 years before or 40 years before. And it's because of an apparent curse that the great 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 grandfather had made with this box that contained the drawing cards, and cursed this family. So if they don't play this game with every new marriage in the family, they all can die pretty much. So it's like it ends up being a curse on the family. I didn't see that coming, but that was pretty cool. So yeah, none of them really know how to use these weapons because they're not used to this game. And of course, there's one character named Emily who starts shooting the wrong person. First person that's shot is the wrong person, named Claire. Claire is her name. And she's trying to find this little boy named Georgie. She's like, Georgie, Georgie, and then I jumped. It was a great jump scare. And Carnage Candy, from like the wound on her face, great stuff. If you like your blood and gore, this is right up there. This is perfect. So there's a character named Fitch who basically uses his cell phone to learn how to use a crossbow, which he is given as a weapon, and basically uses his phone to look up all information. It's kind of funny when he's looking up if demon curses are bullshit or not, and just random shit like that. It was really well done. I found that great. But Alex basically tries to help Grace as much as he can, because he's always just felt pressured by his family to enter this game, and well, not previously, because they've never drawn this card, but because they did, he feels like the only thing he wants to do is get his wife out of the house, because he feels terrible. But yeah, all of the characters are quirky. Like I said, Emily, they constantly make a joke of her shooting the wrong person. It's awesome. She ends up shooting another woman with a bow. It's great. Fitch is always the guy with the cell phone. There's actually there's a character named Daniel, played by Adam Brody, which I liked seeing him in here because he's really good, and he does a lot of horror now. He was in Scream 4. Seth from the OC, that Adam Brody. He's really good. He's basically the drunk who just wants to forget about the whole scenario and hide from everybody and not do anything. But he ends up actually being a really relatable and likable character throughout, and by the end especially. So there's cameras in the house, but they decide not to use it again because they want to go through this 1800s tradition, and they turn all the cameras off. But then there's a point where Grace starts to pick everybody off one by one, and then they're like, "Oh, screw it, we're just gonna use the cameras," and they start arguing with each other like, "No, you can't. It's going back on tradition." It's like, well, grandfather would be using cameras if he was alive today. Okay, it's not tradition that he was born 100 years ago. And they go on and on with that, and they're just they're basically a bunch of quirks thrown into this game that you think they want to be in but actually don't. They just do it because they don't want to die themselves, basically. There's one scene where Alex gets knocked out, and this is the humor where this film goes with that I love. The dad flips a coin with Daniel to see heads or tails, to see who picks up the legs and who picks up the head, to carry the body out. Daniel, played by Adam Brody, is just, fuck, I don't give a shit right now with all this shit going on. He's just flipping the coin. It's like, okay, I'll take tails, you get heads. I just found that out of nowhere and so funny. Absolutely loved it. Aunt Elaine was great. She has this huge kind of silver mohawk and this crazy 1800s face paint and lipstick that she just looks so evil. She basically looks like Cruella de Vil to me, with white hair. White, like, shorter hair. Like, if you took Jamie Lee Curtis from the film Knives Out and gave her a mohawk, that's what this woman, well, an even taller one, that's what this woman would look like. It's great. So yeah, the characters are fantastic. They're chasing this girl all over the house. She starts getting back at them, of course. Ends up outside at one point in a barn. There's a scene with Georgie again. His name is Georgie, right? Yeah. And great scene with Georgie. It's hilarious. He comes around. She's like, "Oh, can you help me? This is going to sound really weird." Little Georgie, he's like 4 years old. He takes a gun and shoots her right here in the palm. Of course, it makes no sense. Goes right through, makes a hole right through the palm. She's like, "Oh my god." And decks the fucking kid. Kid goes flying. She goes to see if he's knocked out, which he is, and then a goat basically scares the shit out of her. She falls back into this pit, and this pit, I guess, is somewhere where they throw a bunch of animal carcasses and probably, which they do later on in the film, throw humans in. So God knows what was in there, but she falls into this pit of rotting corpses of everything, basically. It's pretty disgusting. Kind of reminded me of the pig scene in Saw 3, if anybody knows what I'm talking about there. So yeah, she crawls out, then she runs out of the property and onto the street, and then there's a scene where this car comes by and he stops and she's like, "Help me, help me," and the guy's just like, "Get out of the road, lady." And then she starts dropping every word in the book. She's like, fucking cock sucking, little dick sucking fucker. What did she say? The little dick sucking fucker was my favorite. Little, so good. So this is where we get into Act 3, where she started being chased down by one of the guys in the, I didn't actually get his name. It wasn't the father, but it was one of his assistants. And eventually she takes him down somehow. Again, logic issues. And she steals his car, and then he basically loves listening to opera all the time and classical music. So he's pumping the 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky, and he's just like cackling out the window like a crazy motherfucker. And here comes Grace from the back seat of the car, and just starts kicking his face until his car starts rolling down the hill with 1812 Overture playing. Great scene. And down there she runs into Daniel again, who basically tells her he doesn't want to die and he doesn't want his family to die, so he's taking her back to the house, where we get into the ritual. And the ritual, basically, she gets put in this on the table that she was picking out the card on closer to the beginning of the film, and she's strapped there and she's surrounded, and they start drinking some wine, or it could be blood, who the fuck knows, goat blood, who knows, and just start chanting like a bunch of Satan worshippers. It's great. But a little plot hole there. Did they need her alive, or could they do the ritual dead? Because they were chasing her around with guns through the whole movie trying to kill her. But if they needed her alive, wouldn't they just try to capture her? They were pretty brutal with her, and making it very obvious that they wanted her dead. So would they still be able to do the ritual? That kind of confused me a little bit. But it's nothing that I thought of too much. Anyways, the ritual goes wrong because Daniel ended up poisoning the wine and making everybody puke blood, which was fantastic. And it was good to see him stay on the good side. And then he tries to help Grace escape. Unfortunately, ends up being killed himself. And where does Grace go after that? I think it's pretty funny. Oh yeah, she runs into Alex again. No, the mom first. She runs into the mother, and they start having this huge ass fight where she beats the mother's face in with the card box. Extremely brutal. And then she meets up with Alex again, and Alex gives her a really big betrayal, and grabs her and calls everybody out, and brings her back to the ritual, basically. But not in time, because they had to do this ritual before dawn, and they didn't make it. So, with the ending, and if you don't want to, I mean, this video has been filled with spoilers, as you can see from the title, but if you don't want to hear any more, you can shut it off. But the ending is hilarious because they make it feel like everybody was crazy and thought this curse was real, but it's not, because nothing happens to them. But then like 5 minutes later, they start exploding in total CGI blood that comes out of nowhere again, and it's like, whoa, that happened. It's like, she gets shot with a rocket launcher? Oh no, the curse is just real. She's blowing up. Okay, that's cool. And then Grace basically turns back into her catty self, just like she was at the beginning of the film. And just her facial expression is towards Alex. She's a good actress. She's I didn't know how I felt about her at the beginning though. Like, I don't know if it's Samara Weaving herself. I mean, I find Samara Weaving okay. I mean, she's not great. She's not terrible. She's kind of just in the middle for me. But I don't know. Her personality was kind of weird in this film. She's also got a big overbite, which I kind of found annoying. But she's still a pretty girl. She's pretty hot, like really hot. But I don't know, her personality in this film specifically. Not that I watched The Babysitter, so I haven't seen a lot of stuff with her in it. But yeah, I don't know. She was still incredible, and so was everybody else. I think the best things about this film is the script, for sure, because it wouldn't be able to work any other way. And it feels to me like a funny version of You're Next. I got a lot of You're Next vibes, but funny, where You're Next is a little bit more serious. It's got its comedic tones, but way more serious than this one. and some Drag Me to Hell vibes too, especially with the gore. But I had a blast with it, and I had a phenomenal time, and definitely a recommended one. And yeah, that's my review for Ready or Not. Go check it. Cheers.